Zechariah Tiemens again. This is a really great question. If being a frontier people is so key to the American spirit, could America happen again on planet Earth? I think that's why I said Antarctica or Alaska. You do need the frontier. You need hardship for this kind of society. You need hardship because if there's hardship, you don't have slackers. If you have hardship, you have people who may not be able to do one kind of job, but if there's hardship, they'll have to do some other kind of job. If you have hardship, everybody gets skin in the game where there's hardship. No one rides for free on the frontier. It's just the way it goes. The analogy that I liked so much, I heard Dinesh D'Souza come up with it. I don't know if it's his. I hope to God it's not, because it's so damn good. But it's really terrific. And what he basically said was, imagine that the whole country consisted of 100 people. And let's say that there was a giant wagon. And let's just further say that at any given population, at any given time, let's say that 10% of the population, for whatever reason, is incapable of taking care of themselves. That would be 10% of the population means they're either too old to continue to walk, and they've put in a lifetime of pulling, and so they've earned their rest, certainly, and they're just physically decrepit. They can't do it anymore. And that would also include people who have, birth deformities or chronic illnesses, children, very young. So let's just say, and I think the number's about right, let's just say that at any given time, in our population of 100 people, 10% of them or 10 of them are not capable of walking, and they want to ride in the wagon. That's marvelous. That's appropriate. It's decent. It's civilized. It's humane. It's great. None of these people are laying about. The old people have worked their tails off pulling, and now they not only deserve, they're genuinely entitled to be pulled after all the pulling that they've done. The people who were incapacitated in any other way, they didn't ask for this. They contribute in other ways. If they need to ride in the wagon, they need to ride. And young children, very young children, should be able to ride because they're going to be pulling someday. You can't have babies pulling wagons. So that's the starting premise that Dinesh came up with. He says, now what happens, though? What happens if a guy who's got blisters, not terribly bad blisters, but he doesnn't like pulling. He's like, I got blisters. All right, get in the wagon. And more people get in the wagon. Then what happens if some people decide that they want to get in the wagon, and so what they do is they start faking injuries, and then they get in the wagon. And then what happens if you find out that one guy can gain a lot of power by promising people seats in the wagon? You let me do this, let me give me some money, whatever, I'll get you in the wagon. As more and more people get in the wagon, this is the key point. As more and more people get into the wagon, there are fewer and fewer people pulling the wagon. And when there comes a point where 40% of the people are in the wagon and 60% of the people are pulling in the wagon, it gets very hard to pull the wagon. And somewhere around 50% or so, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower, it begins to dawn on the people doing the pulling that they're chumps for pulling the wagon. Because the people that they're pulling now are not sick, and they're not aged, and they're not handicapped in any way. They're just lazy. And as more and more people stop pulling and get in the wagon, it becomes stupider and stupider and stupider. It becomes a logical, rational choice to stop pulling and get in the wagon. Then what happens is when you have 90 people in the wagon and 10 people pulling, the strongest people, the best people, the most honorable people are still pulling, comes a point when if it's 80-20 and 80 in the wagon, 20 pulling, then the 20 people saying, you know what, screw you. You can have your damn wagon. We're going to go someplace else. And then what happens? Then nobody pulls the wagon. And who hurts the most when this happens? The 10% of the people who really needed it. They're the ones who hurt the most. That's where we are right now. We are at the place where everybody is entitled to everything. Nobody understands that somebody's paying for it. So, why not get in the wagon? It's the smart play to get in the wagon. When that happens, the game's all over. It's the same way of saying that once people begin to realize that you can vote yourself other people's money out of the treasury, then the game's up. So there you go. You can't do that on a frontier. On a frontier, everybody has to do something. It may not be everybody's out there roping calves, but everybody has to do something. And so where are there frontiers on planet Earth? If there was a frontier on planet Earth, I'd go there. If it were Antarctica, I keep coming back to Antarctica, but I come back to Antarctica because Antarctica is not for the weak. And by the way, when I say not for the weak, I don't mean weak in body. I mean it's not for the weak in spirit. You can have completely sickly, decrepit, aged people in Antarctica. As long as everybody's pulling their weight, we can afford to take care of the people who genuinely cannot. But old people still can do things. They can dice carrots. I don't mean to be dismissive, but there's any number of things that people can do. There's any number of people who don't have use of their legs that they can do. Anybody can do something. And when you're on a frontier, everybody has to do something because you don't have this stockpile of excess wealth and danger is all around you. And so you have to come to people's aid. You don't have to like them, but you have to come to their aid because if you don't, they won't come to your aid. There's no safety net. One of the most wonderful little lines I've ever heard, my favorite political writer ever utter, was P.G. O'Rourke in my favorite book called Eat the Rich. It's the best book on economics I ever read. In Eat the Rich, P.G. O'Rourke is talking about the miracle of Hong Kong, where a country that had essentially zero safety net, zero resources, managed to have the highest GDP on the planet. And PJ turned a little phrase. He said, because the Chinese in Hong Kong didn't have a safety net, it was important that they keep a hand on the trapeze. And that's what they did. They didn't have a safety net, so they had to keep their hands on the trapeze. And that's what it comes down to, Zechariah, It's not a safety net anymore. It's a safety hammock. And everybody lies in it. And more people get in the wagon. Fewer and fewer people push. That's why when we do stories like this, we're talking about going a place where failure is not an option. Because if you leave a door open by accident, you die and probably everybody else dies too. So, the frontier is the essence of our values. You gotta keep the frontier with you somehow. And the final thing I'll say about the frontier is, as long as there was a frontier, there was a place for the people who were risk takers and who were unwilling to submit to other people running their lives. There was a place for them to go. We don't have a place to go now. If there was a place like that, I'd be there. Every place in the world is settled now. Where are you going to go? People say, Honduras? Come on. You really want to live in Honduras in the jungle? There is the Honduran government, and if the Honduran government decides to take, they don't like you, then you're done. There's no place free and left alone on the earth, because if there's a place where you could be left alone on the earth, I'd be there now. And so would you, likely. So we have to recover this one, and I like this one. North America is the most beautiful place on the planet. New Zealand is lovely. Wouldn't take, but, a couple hundred of us to take New Zealand, because none of them have guns down there, Just something to think about. That's all I'm saying. I didn't say it. You didn't hear it here. That's not something I actually said. So, no, don't worry about it, New Zealand. We're just joking. We're just kidding around. Nothing really. Not saying anything. It's just a joke. Of course it's a joke. I always joke like this. But seriously, we could probably take New Zealand with 100, 200 guys with ARs and an airplane or two. Just something to think about. Okay. And that's going to do it for the Stratosphere Lounge this evening. What did I do? Did I fog it, or did I put all kinds of horrible greasy oils on it? I bet I did B. Hang on a moment. Let's improve our. Ta-da! Microfiber rules. That's all we have time for today, ladies and gentlemen. This has been your Stratosphere Lounge, episode number 43. As always, thank you for everything. Thank you for your support over the years. Those of you who've become subscribers to BillWhittle.com, thank you very much for that. And we're going to start seeing that as a real going enterprise, really pretty much immediately. I actually, for the first time in a long time, look forward to getting to bed early and getting up early, because there's a lot of stuff I want to do on the website that day. So there it is. We're still in the end phase of building the thing. Once we get to put all of our energies into maintaining and updating it, then it'll start to be humming. So I think by next week we should be in routine mode. As always, you can leave your questions on Facebook. As always, thank you for this magnificent life that I've come to enjoy, and I can't recommend it highly enough to all of you. Find a way to make your work what you love, and you'll never work again. So we'll see you on the Facebook page in between now and then, and we will see you at the movies. We'll see you out there in the world, out in the fight. We'll beat these swine yet, don't you worry. If they didn't have to climb such a high, impossible hill of reality, I'd be worried, but they do, so I'm not. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.